Welcome on in. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. We are live as we are each and every week at the Heineken Pub 97 here at the Private Bank Fire Pitch. Fred Hubner along with Paul Tenorio. Frank Klopas will be joined by Chicago goalkeeper Matt Lampson in our third segment. We've got plenty to talk about, a couple of games last week, and we'll get you ready for another home game against Minnesota United FC. Again, United or FC, you couldn't go with just one, but that's my complaint. Guys, I'm trying to have some lighten the mood a little bit. We've talked all year long about in this league, all teams hit stretches. Losing 5 out of 6, this hopefully is the final stretch for the Chicago Fire.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to understand and accept there's going to be setbacks along the way, especially in a long season like this, Paul. This team, we haven't talked about setbacks, and I think this is, the one situation and a moment where you can look and, they've dropped 3 games, and I think they have to snap out of it. But I think most teams go through it, and you have to understand it, you have to accept it, and you have to move forward. But obviously learn from the games and the mistakes you've made from the past.
Yeah, and it's not just Chicago, right? It's every team. I was talking with Chris Duval earlier for a story I'm working on 442 about Montreal, and he was saying we were having some low moments earlier this year, and everyone that's been in this league was saying in the locker room, we're going to come out of this low moment. It's how you come out of it. How quickly do you respond, and can you put a run of positive results together? Montreal's done that with 4 wins in a row to put themselves into a good spot in the playoff position right now, and the Fire have to respond similarly. Yes, they've lost 5 of 6. There's not a lot you're going to smile about there, but now it's about how do you respond to this bad spurt here, and can you start to get some results with the games that are left at home? And that begins against a Minnesota team that has improved a lot, but is certainly a little bit more vulnerable than Toronto or Kansas City or NYCFC, 3 of those losses that we've seen in the last month or so.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about the Minnesota game coming up, but we got to go back and look at what happened in the last week. The Chicago Fire with a midweek game as they took on Montreal up north of the border last week. Bastian Schweinsteiger greeting the fans. A lot of those Bayern Munich jerseys you see all over the place. And this was one of the tough moments really early in the contest.
Yeah, 5 minutes in, you don't expect to make a sub where I think it just really hurts the team, that early in there. And then obviously, a guy like Christian Dean coming in, new to the team, not really having any time to warm up, probably not even expected to go in and play. So goes in a difficult situation. But for me, Paul, this game more than anything, we talked about that last game in Columbus, and the mistakes and the turnovers that led to some of the Columbus goals. And I think going into this match, we talked about, what the Fire have to do better, being on the road, being better with the ball, making sure you don't turn the ball over. Because you knew, look, Montreal stayed deep, Columbus forced the ball, and they hit them on counters.
Yeah, they did. And then coming back here to sold-out Toyota Park, and there we see Toronto coming to town. They get on the board early. Bastian Schweinsteiger with a blast, and David Accam gets his leg up, puts it in. We're tied at 1 here in the 54th minute.
Yeah, I think, the Fire certainly responded well after going down a goal. You like to see this, getting the goal, getting back into the game. But Toronto's a very talented team, and I think some of the areas that we've talked about with how the Fire tend to get a little bit stretched when they try to press started to crop up again in this game. It allowed Victor Vasquez to get on the ball in space to give the go-ahead goal, and then, late on when you're pushing, you give up that third goal if you're the Fire. But I didn't think it was the worst performance in the world. I just think Toronto's a really, really good team. It was a pretty good game. At 2-1, I thought it was a pretty good back-and-forth game. The Fire obviously had to push to try to get that equalizer, and you give up that third goal. But I still think there are these moments, Frank, in these last few games where you look at team shape and organization, especially when trying to press. And, we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. But if the forward line is going to press high up the field, as, when Michael Bradley was dropping deep to find the ball and those forwards are pressing, Dax is pressing, the rest of the midfield has to press. The back line has to push up to close that space. It wasn't happening quickly enough, that recognition, and it allowed Victor Vasquez to really, I thought, have the best performance of anyone in the game. He was the man of the match for me, but partly because he had so much space to operate.
No, I agree with you. And I think, little things, we'll show the clips like you talked about, and I think it's the way they came out in that 3-4-1-2 formation. I think, the 2 forwards playing against the 3 in the back really have to work hard and make it predictable, force play on one side and keep it there. They all have to work together. I think to Paul's point, that didn't happen in certain situations. The team got very stretched. And when you're playing against a talented team like Toronto with the quality of players they have, if you get stretched, you make it a lot easier for them. You go late to tackles, and it's easy for them to play through you. But then also with the ball, Paul, I think there were opportunities where right now I think you see the movement of the front runners. I think their inability at times to get the ball or not be involved in moments, I think they're not as patient. I think they're making similar runs where they're all coming to the ball, and instead of creating more space for the guys in the midfield, they're taking that space away, which made it a lot more easier for Toronto to defend against it.
Yeah, and it was 1-0 at halftime. Then the second half, some changes, I think, in the attack for the Chicago Fire. We saw a lot more of Schweinsteiger going forward. We'll talk more about that as we go along. And I know a lot of people liked seeing that. There were a couple of great opportunities for him in that second half, and hopefully we'll see more of that coming up soon.
Yeah, and they've changed formation. I think, Paul mentioned it when we started the game. I think they went into a 4-3-3. They pushed the game. I think it was a good start to that second game. But again, I think it's those little mental lapses against a quality team they make you pay.
The Chicago Fire right back at it this coming weekend as they take on a Minnesota United FC. Saturday night, a 7:30 start. It's Star Wars night. You can get not only your ticket, but also a special edition Star Wars Fire scarf. The package is $40. Visit chicago-fire.com/Star Wars night. If you can't catch the game, it's on CSN Plus, 7 o'clock pregame with Dan Kelly, Frank Lopez, and Paul Tenorio. We'll come back. We'll take a closer look at some of the things that happened out at a sold-out Toyota Park this past Saturday. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. What's his name now?
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
The heat will wear you out real quick. And we've been through some hot ones. It's very physical. You gotta take care of your body and stay hydrated because every moment matters. That's why I drink Advocare Hydrate. I've got a job to do.
Oh, honey, it's time.
To go back to Lowe's? Yeah, this Valspar paint and primer in one really freed up the afternoon. Hey, how do you feel about tackling the kitchen?
Ooh, not great.
Okay, well, maybe we could finish up the basement then. I always wanted to get a pool table down there. I'm a bit of a shark.
And your wife is very much a pregnant chameleon.
Oh, what about a bar?
John.
Yo, that time.
Yeah.
Clean paint starts here. Save time with Valspar's paint and primer in one interior paints exclusively at Lowe's.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez, as we are talking about a couple of losses back-to-back last week and getting you ready for what's coming up this weekend as Minnesota United FC comes to Toyota Park. And guys, the entire first half of the season, when everything was going real well, we gave a lot of credit to the leadership in this team. The two are the newer guys in the midfield. And we also, you can throw Janino in there also, along with McCarty and Schweinsteiger. And a stretch like this, losing 5 out of 6, this is when those leaders really have to step up and help out.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the reason why you bring them in. And I think, we talked about this early on with Dax McCarty. He's been through a lot of MLS seasons. He understands that there are these ups and downs. Juninho as well, winning MLS Cups with LA Galaxy. And I think this week even you've seen, last week I spoke to Dax about it. He said that was a lot of what he was voicing. This is part of the season. We have to work our way out of it. I saw comments as well this week from Bastian Schweinsteiger saying, this is where we show the character of our team. This is where we have to step up and start to break out of the funk. So yes, I mean, you do lean on your veterans at this point. I think there has to be an understanding within the entire team that everyone needs to up their game a little bit. There can't be any letdown. For example, this game coming up against Minnesota, you can't look at Minnesota's record and say this is going to be an easy game. They just showed that this past weekend in Seattle. You know, a tough 2-1 result only on a penalty kick in injury time. Did Seattle get the 3 points? So this is where leadership does play an important role.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And also, injuries play a big role. I know teams and coaches never want to blame injuries, but there are 3 guys on the back line for the Fire still struggling to get back into the lineup.
Absolutely. I mean, I think no matter what, coaches will always point out the injuries to you, whether they want to call them excuses or not, because it does impact the way a team plays. And I think especially when you're losing 3 starters on your back line, that is a very difficult thing to overcome because backline chemistry is so important. The more games that you can play together. Joao Myra and Johan Kapelov played all season together. That center back chemistry is so important. But then when you look at the way this system was built, a lot of it is focused around the fullback play. Getting the fullbacks up the field, telling the wingers to tuck in and play a little bit narrow, and trying to get the service from Matt Polster and Brandon Vincent. I don't think it's a coincidence, for example, that Brandon Vincent has been out for 6 or 7 games now, and Nemanja Nikolic hasn't scored in that same stretch of games. A lot of service came from Brandon Vincent on that left side, and when you start to lose that service, when you start to lose that chemistry, it's very difficult. We're going to have Matt Lamson on next segment. I guarantee you, if we ask him about the difficulties of having a back line in front of him, that 3 different players, it's tough to overcome, and I think the Fire have had to deal with that, and that's the reality of an MLS season.
And there's also a lot of things that you guys see as you sit there and pick apart what happens in each of the games, ways that you think the Fire can actually step up and improve this week.
Well, look, I mean, the one thing we're going to go into a couple clips to show. I think one is on the defensive side of the ball and how important the forwards without the ball. I mean, you often talk about defending and you say, well, it starts from front to back. I think there were moments in this game and opportunities where the front 2, can make it a little bit more predictable for the back line. And that doesn't happen. The team gets very stretched like we talked about it. That's the one thing. I think when you rewind and you look at the first goal, I don't look at the end product. I go back 30 seconds and see where did it initially stop and can you prevent that? That's the first thing. And I saw also the other thing with the ball, your ability now to open up the field in moments. I think the runs are not there. I think there's very similar runs. I think the guys don't get the ball maybe that often, and they're all making kind of similar runs instead of working off each other. But let's go just to the first clip here, and just the defensive shape. And for me, it's very simple. As the back 3 for Toronto, Mawinga with the ball is the left center half. Nikolic goes to cut. It's so important for Akam. He's got to make that 10-yard sprint and deny that pass. Now that doesn't happen. They swing the ball to the other side. Delou's got to go. Akam's got to understand, we cannot have Bradley on the ball. But look how stretched you get as a team, Paul.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's a 5-yard sprint, but those are the little things that make the difference, especially when you're playing a team like Toronto FC. If you make things simple and Mavinga has to play that ball over the top, you win the ball, you restart your possession. Instead, they're able to swing out of pressure, switch the field. Now the midfield is unbalanced because they were trying to force things down that left side. It allows Toronto to get things up the field, and they have sustained pressure. And yeah, there are multiple things that go wrong in this goal. I thought Christian Dean's header clearance could have been better, but, it started early on. And now you look here, again, look at the 1, 2, 3 forwards. They all make the same run, Frank.
Right, but for me, it starts, if we go back on this play, it's like you have 2 forwards from Toronto. They don't press at all. So the minute you force a midfielder to come out and pressure, you have a big advantage in the middle. We don't solve that, plus the fact that the forwards are making the same runs. And then here again, playing out of pressure. You see Schweinsteiger, he sees the field there. He's waiting for McCarty to make that pass. Once that pass is made, Akam's got to get his head up and see where's the space. I got to play a square ball once to Schweinsteiger. We get out of pressure, but you get a bad touch, you get closed in, and instead of now an opportunity to break pressure and have numbers up going the other way, you lose the ball, and now you got to chase again. So it's just little things that sometimes when you're pressing a little too hard, things are not going your way. Third game in 1 week, I think the decision-making maybe it hasn't been as good.
And again, these are 3 things that are happening that seem small, but that's where you can win games. I think, I've been a little bit frustrated, and I think those last 2 clips show it, where Akam is checking back for the ball, instead of getting high up the field and opening up for space, which is where his strength is, getting out and running in space one-on-one or even 1v2 against defenders because he has so much pace. And also, in that clip where we showed 3 strikers all checking back into the same space, there's no reason for Nemanja Nikolic to be near midfield in the middle of the field. Get him high up. The closer he is to the goal and to the 18-yard box, the better it is for the Fire. If he's cleared out and Akam is high, DeLu can check into that space. You've got Juninho who can step into the space where Nikolic was, and now you're better balanced as a team. But this is showing, I think, a lot of people pressing, a lot of people trying to fix things on their own, and you lose some of the dynamic movement in the front line that was so effective early on.
I agree. Sometimes as a forward, Nikolic, when you're not involved, he's a guy that even when he's making a run like that, it's not like he wants the ball to get it and turn and stuff. He wants a touch on the ball to come one time back and then move out of the way. In the past, I think when he's checking, you have DeLu making that run in depth. You have Akam making the run like Paul said, and then you have different runs. One is coming, one is going. You're able to stretch the team, you gain. But there's a little moments where I think that you can read a situation, and then find ways to break the opposing team down. And I think we're not clear with our thought process there.
When we come back, we'll have a chance to talk with Chicago Fire goalkeeper Matt Lampson. We'll get back to the ins and outs and the X's and O's in our Field Vision segment a little bit later on. But Matt Lampson, Chicago Fire goalkeeper, joins us next. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Apt, Chicagoland's #1 shopping destination, has everything you need for the perfect home. We carry the largest selection of HD and Ultra HD televisions for the best picture. Create an incredible home audio experience with the finest brands and have Apt custom installers bring the entire experience to life. You just sit back and enjoy. For a better experience, professional installation, and of course, free delivery. Apt, pleasing people since 1936.
Welcome to Toyota's National Clearance Event.
I need something reliable.
Camry's reliable. It's also a great car to pass down.
Huh. Yeah, this will be yours one day.
Thanks, Pops. I thought I was getting it, Dad.
Oh, well.
No, me.
Looks like you got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Right now, lease a new 2017 Camry for $199 a month or get 0% APR for 72 months plus $1,000 bonus cash during Toyota's National Clearance Event.
It's yours for now.
Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, sports fans, the Bulls Sox Academy, the official youth training facility of the Chicago Bulls and White Sox, is running summer camp in over 50 communities around Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. These camps are an awesome opportunity for all young fans to learn to play the games the right way, straight from the pros. Besides learning all the fundamentals, each athlete will receive an exclusive stadium tour, have an opportunity to meet current or former players, and much more.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. We are live here at the Heineken Pub 97. Happy to be joined by Matt Lampson, Chicago Fire goalkeeper. Matt, thanks for jumping on in.
Thanks for having me back again. I must have not screwed up enough in the first time.
we love Matt. We want to have him every week here.
We didn't say that. We did not say that.
No, not at all. No, early in the season we had you on. Everything was going well. Recently, 5 out of 6 losses.
Yeah.
How's the mood and during practices and everything else with the team?
Yeah, the mood's good. I mean, you guys have pointed it out. There's ebbs and flows in the season. We were on a high for 12 games, maybe even longer than that, and you're going to have to come back down to earth at some point. Unfortunately, it's been 4 or 5 games in a row without a real good. I mean, we did get a win against New England, but when you play against NYCFC and you play against Toronto, 2 teams that are the upper echelon in the league, you want to prove that you're just as good, if not better than them. And unfortunately, we didn't do that. But at the same time, we're still a very good team. We're still sitting 3rd in the entire league. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They're just looking at the most recent results. But we're sitting in a good spot. We have it all in our hands, and as cliche as it is, we're going to take it one game at a time, and it starts on Saturday, and it's all within our control to change things, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, as you point out, I mean, yes, you've gone through this bad kind of stretch here, but you are right still in the thick of things in the playoff race in third place. But you look, if you peek behind you, the Red Bulls are coming up. Montreal's on a nice run. When you talk about trying to change things over, how much is that a part of the conversation? You know, we're at that stretch of the season where you're talking about momentum for the playoffs. You're talking about home field position for the playoffs. Is that on the minds of the players in the locker room as well?
Well, Paul, why are you looking behind us? Like, our job is to look in front of us. We look at NYCFC and we look at Toronto and we say we want to be in the 1 or 2 spot. We want the home field advantage. And so obviously there's teams that want to make the playoffs behind us. They want to overtake us. But our job is to get after the 1 and 2 teams. So and those are the teams that we want to be better than ultimately. So those are the games that we look forward to. I know we play NYCFC again. And so those are the games that we have to come in and prove that we are in the top 2 or 3 in the league and get results in.
Matt, I just wanted to ask you this from a goalkeeping perspective. I often feel like teams get teams in the right moment. I think we've been very fortunate not to have any injuries, or you have one injury here or one injury there, but when you have 3 main guys out in the back, how difficult is it for the back line, but also for you to adjust to the new guys coming in?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. I think back in the Montreal game, we were in shambles just because, that was Christian Dean's first game with us, and he's been with us for a week maybe. But as you know, soccer is a game of chemistry. I mean, the teams that have the best chemistry, and within that, the back line itself has its own chemistry, myself included. So you need time to build that relationship, and you need time to know what tendencies are for everybody, who's comfortable with the ball where, and that's something that we need to adjust to on the fly, and it's tough to do, especially when you're coming up against Columbus at Columbus and NYCFC at NYCFC and Toronto. I mean, those are horribly difficult situations to be put in, but we're all professionals, and we're going to get better with every practice.
I know one of the things that Pano's always liked to do, he liked to do it last year, is play the ball out of the back. Did that change a little bit with some of the guys not there on the defensive back four?
No. It's next guy up has to be able to play the same way. I think as a whole, we've done really well building out of the back. I had 2 mistakes that I can't really do in the last game. A miss pass to Dax and a miss pass to Johan, and those are the things that I need to eliminate altogether, but that comes with familiarity with the whole back line and like what I said, knowing where people are going to be, where they like the ball, things like that, and we're still growing. We want to be a team that always possesses the ball and always plays out of the back and are comfortable doing it. And it's a work in progress. People are going to make mistakes, and it's whether we learn from them and get better from them. And it's always nice if you make mistakes and you don't get scored on too. So that helps.
It's always easy when a last place team comes in for people to say, "Oh, 3 points, no problem, Minnesota." How was it almost important in a way for fans, for other people, whether it's in the locker room outside, to see what they did in Seattle, to take them to the 93rd minute, needing a penalty kick Seattle did to get 3 points out of that game against Minnesota, to say, hey, listen, this isn't going to be us walking out on the field and getting 3 points just because.
Yeah, well, I've always said that the MLS is built on parity, so you can't ever take a game for granted, and this team is a very tough team. They've progressively gotten better and better and better throughout the whole year. And it's going to be a tough game. As you said, they played their hearts out in Seattle, and a result like that can go either way. And we will be ready, and we expect a very tough game. But we do play well at home, and as long as we do everything that we know we can do and play the way we can play, I think we'll be fine. But we are expecting a dogfight, and it's going to be a tough time.
You're speaking about playing well at home. Just recently, this past Saturday, you lost your first game of the year at home. How much does that home crowd help you guys out there at Toyota Park?
Oh, it's unbelievable. They're incredibly loud. They fill in every seat, and they're supporting us no matter what. And we couldn't do it without them. And they've had to suffer through quite a few poor seasons, and we're now giving them something really, really exciting to cheer about. And it's nice that they're there, even when we lose. They're still supporting us no matter what. It's an awesome feeling.
Matt's got a big event coming up this Saturday morning, well before the game. We'll talk about that when we come back. Don't forget the Minnesota United FC in town Saturday. Get your tickets, chicago-fire.com. We'll talk more about Star Wars Night also a little bit later on in the show. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
The blades of a combat chopper spin at 380 RPMs. Not even close to an Echo trimmer. Now that's shock and awe. Power on and on.
We don't give up. We don't quit. We keep going. Day in, day out. We fight on. Why? Because we are champions. Be a champion.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
Find a location near you at chicago-fire.com/youth.
What's more powerful than the winds of a Cat 5 hurricane? An Echo backpack blower. So, yeah, it'll clear a path. Power on and on.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner along with Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez, and Chicago Fire goalkeeper Matt Lamson. We've been talking about the Chicago Fire on the pitch. You've got an event coming up on Saturday morning, which I know Frank is all set to go to already.
Listen, that's why we have Matt every week here, man. I mean, look at this. I mean, Paul couldn't stop Matt on the break. I mean, we didn't see it, but he put a couple away already.
Well, I have a game tonight. I was good. I had a
Donuts and
parfait
beer.
earlier. I thought I'm going to be fit for my game tonight. Lamson shows up with donuts, and I house a Boston cream before the show starts.
You don't have to eat them.
No,
I'm not
I
forcing
felt like
you to eat
pressured
them.
me. You pressured me pretty early.
But you know what he said? He goes, I haven't eaten anything all day. I said, I need some energy, man. I need some of this quick...
Pure energy right in front of us.
Exactly.
There you go.
Well, I will be swinging by on Saturday morning, but tell us a little bit about the event.
Yeah, so it's going on at every single Glazed and Infused location, but specifically myself and a few of my teammates will be working the counter and interacting with the customers at the Armitage location in Lincoln Park. And we're very excited. Half of everything that's sold at that location will be going to Lamstrong, and there will be Chicago Fire donuts at all the other locations. So every one of those you buy goes to Lamstrong as well. So help support Lamstrong Foundation and come meet some players and get donuts. And it's been awesome. So very excited for it.
Some of your teammates are going to be out there with you.
That's
correct?
right. That's right. They most of the guys that live together, I won't call what we call it, but it's Johnny Campbell, Daniel Johnson, Stephen Cleveland, and Brad Bronico will be out there. So if you're young and single lady, I'm sure they'd want to meet you. And from 9 to 12, they're going to be there.
Don't
so
get 'em in
Hop on the
trouble,
brown
Matt.
line.
Don't get
It's
'em in
right
trouble.
there.
Yeah, it's
Super
right
easy
there.
to get there, no problem. We're going to pull out the single ads now and get back to talking about it.
No, is this event, is this the first year that you're doing this?
Yeah, this is the first. I've done a Chicago donut tour this past offseason that I went to every single donut place in Chicago. And I hosted everybody, and we took them around on a trolley. But this is the first one of this kind that I've just partnered with one place in particular. And
We got to do like a Greek restaurant tour or something.
Yeah,
I'm telling
Greek
you,
Island.
we have enough places that we can stop and.
That's what I feel like my normal weeks are when I eat with you, is a freaking tour of the Greek restaurant.
That's right.
Matt, tell me a little bit more about what you guys have done with Lamstrong so far. And kind of what the goal is ultimately of the foundation too.
Yeah, so far since I've come to Chicago, we've partnered with Lurie Children's Hospital. I just donated $20,000 to them to basically give information and resources to cancer patients and families to just be healthy during treatment and following treatment. My goal is to help kids, particularly kids that are interested in athletics, but any adolescent or young adult, that once they're done with chemotherapy, to get back to as close to precancerous condition as possible. That was a huge goal for me, to get back on the soccer field and just live a better life. And it's incredibly difficult to do on your own. I didn't have the resources or the knowledge base to do it efficiently. It took me a long time, so I want to provide kids with the information and resources and guidance and inspiration to do it much easier than I'd had.
Over the last 2 years, my wife and I have both been dealing with cancer, and we talked to you a while ago at the White Party a couple years ago. But the thing you brought up, though, with the families is so important, because you're not going through this alone. You never do.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've always got people fighting with you, and they are getting affected, maybe not as medically as you are, but they are being affected. And whenever I meet my heroes after every single game that I play, it means just as much to the parents to see what their child can be, not necessarily a professional athlete, but what they can achieve after they're done with treatment, just as much as it means to the kid to be out on the field with me. So it's a very humbling experience. I'm very grateful to have it.
Do you have? Are there some times when you have your heroes that come to all your home games and they say, "Matt, it's great, we love seeing you, but can we go meet somebody else?"
And away games, by the way.
Okay.
And that did happen so far this year. They wanted to meet a guy that wears number 31. No surprise there. And I felt kind of like Make-A-Wish, and I was like, you know what? I'll get him out here. It was after a loss, and he still came out. So that tells you the type of guy that he is, with no vested interest, but he still came out and met with him. So it was a special experience for him too, and I'm grateful to have him as a teammate and a friend. He's a great guy.
It's always one of my favorite parts, being down on the sideline, to see you after the game jogging to see the hero and the family. Because you can see them waiting and the excitement that's there, and before the game sometimes they come down too. But it's just a really cool thing you do, and it's especially neat because you can see the excitement on all of their faces. You can see the impact as it's happening right there.
Absolutely, it's something that I hadn't really experienced or realized until my parents pointed it out, because it's something that they noticed as a parent themselves. And that's when I really started to love setting up all these heroes. It's amazing.
We know you're very comfortable in front of the mic, but before you came here, Paul was a little concerned because he says you always like to give it to him a little bit when he asks you questions.
Always a little bit of...
I'm just trying to make him a better journalist, a better reporter, a better on-couch persona. And I feel like I'm helping him achieve his professional goals.
He's got a lot of work left to do, but I appreciate the effort.
You often tell me that he's always got a smile on his face. You don't know he's joking with the answer he's giving you, or
that's right. That's right.
Mean, it's like
he doesn't know me well enough.
Listen, I'll tell you what. It's the two people that keep me on my toes the most in this job has been Bruce Arena and Matt Lamson, because they both make me think double hard about what question I'm going to ask, because I'm going to get something back. So, Matt, just so you know, you're right up there with Bruce.
Oh, I have to talk about him and come up with some strategy then.
Perfect.
Matt, appreciate you jumping on in the event coming up. on Saturday. People can always find out more information, chicago-fire.com or lamstrong.com, correct?
That's right. And goglaze.com.
There you go, goglaze.com. Good luck this Saturday.
Thank you very much, guys.
Matt Lamson, Chicago Fire goalkeeper. We come back. We'll get you ready for Minnesota United coming to town Saturday. It's a 7:30 start. Star Wars night. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. It's Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Everyone has got a dream. You know what I mean?
Hey, is this our turn? Honey, our turn?
Yeah, we go left right here.
Great adventures are still out there. We'll find them in our Subaru Outback.
Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Get 0% APR financing for 63 months on all new 2017 Subaru Outback models, now through August 31st.
Rain, driving, pounding, soaking. Your home is constantly threatened by storms, causing worrisome basement seepage problems. We've waterproofed over 300,000 Chicagoland homes, and we know how important yours is. Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com. US Waterproofing. A better basement starts with us.
It's time for the biggest sale of the year with the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed. It senses your every move and automatically adjusts on both sides to keep you effortlessly comfortable. And snoring? Does your bed do that? The new 360 smart bed is part of our biggest sale of the year, where all beds are on sale. And right now, save 50% on the Labor Day limited edition bed plus free home delivery and Saturday.
My name's Sonia Walker, and I'm the co-founder of Nutfreeze Bakery. Nutfreeze is a family-owned and operated business specializing in sweet and delicious peanut and tree nut-free baked goods. We are a small business, and we moved to Elk Grove Village 6 months ago. It's been incredible. We're centrally located and helps our growing company deliver nut-free baked goods all over the Midwest. We work hard for our customers, and we know that Elk Grove Village works hard for us.
Welcome back in. It is time for Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCare. As the Chicago Fire, after a couple of losses last week and dropping 5 of their last 6, they've got the expansion Minnesota United FC coming to town. Fred Hubner along with Paul Tenorio and Frank Klopas. And guys, I understand, and you're right, Paul, in the last segment you mentioned how it was nice seeing, for a lot of people, seeing exactly what Minnesota can bring, running Seattle all the way to the extra time before Seattle got the victory. But you always need and want to take advantage of those expansion teams, and that's what the Fire needs to do this Saturday.
No doubt. But, I know Adrian Heath very well. I covered him when he was coaching Orlando City, both in USL and then in MLS, and I can tell you something. His teams always pull off one upset a year, one or two big games where they shouldn't have anything to do with that game. He gets them fired up. They usually play good soccer. It's been a little bit more of a struggle to do that with this Minnesota team. They just don't have the pieces yet. But he certainly can coax the best out of his team in these big moments where everyone's overlooking them. And you better believe that after that performance in Seattle, where they push them all the way and they get that penalty kick in the 93rd minute, Adrian is saying out there at training right now, hey, we almost pulled it off in Seattle. Let's go to Chicago and do what no one expects us to do. And this is a roster that still has a lot of work to do before they're a contender in MLS. But there are some pieces I really like here as well. Kevin Molino, for me, has not been playing great the last few weeks, but he's one of the better players in Major League Soccer, in my opinion. The Tico, Francisco Calvo, the captain, playing left back, not his normal position, but he's probably their second best player on that Minnesota team. He's a good defender, good with the ball at his feet usually. I think Ibsen has been way better than I expected, so they have some pieces in place here. Abu Danladi, 2 great chances against Seattle, he doesn't finish, but it shows that he's got the ability to put himself in those positions, Frank.
No, you're right, Paul. He's got some pace. So there's a threat there, in transition. We always talk about with this Fire team, at least the last 2 or 3 games, managing the ball and being good with the ball, because with Danladi on top, you saw in that Seattle match the opportunity. He broke through. He got 2 clear opportunities to get that second goal. That didn't happen, so there is a threat with his pace to get behind. Finley.
Yes.
You know, he comes in now. I mean, he's always a threat. He makes some very good diagonal runs from the right side. He scored a great goal. You know, if Ramirez, he's still injured, I don't know if he comes back because I think, you know, he's got qualities. He's not there, but he's a guy that's, as a striker, he needs service. But I think there are pieces there. Molino, he's a very good player, you know. But the thing is, can he be a guy now that, you know, that you can count on in every game to make a difference? You know, a big-time player. You know, does he have that kind of mentality and personality? That's yet to be there because when at moments he's been fantastic.
How important is it after the Fire dropped their first home game of the season for them to not only get out there and get a victory, but get on the board early, show early in the contest what they have?
I mean, I think anytime you're at home in a game you should win, you want to strike first and you want to set the tone early on. You don't, most importantly, when you're playing a team like Minnesota, you don't want to give them the confidence that they can stay in the game. The longer this game stays 0-0, the better it is for Minnesota, or even if, obviously, if they can steal a goal. So you want to put that down right away, that energy, that confidence. And I'm telling you, man, this guy, Ethan Finley, one thing I think stands out about certain players on Minnesota, and Calvo and Molino, two guys I really like, watching that Seattle game, a bit too casual for me. They give the ball away, and then they're jogging. They're not really closing down. And you watch this guy, Ethan Finley. I mean, he is sprinting 60 yards back to get in the right defensive shape. I think that kind of mentality is contagious. I think that when you bring a guy like that into your team, bring a Sam Cronin into your team, you start to improve that mentality. So if you can get that early goal and maybe tamper down the expectations for Minnesota that maybe they can pull it off, that'd be huge. But Ethan Finley, for me, is going to be a key in this game.
I think he's a good pickup. I think Cronin coming in, I think they're really hurting a little bit on the left side with Birch being out because, like you said, you have a center back like Calvo. You push him out wide. He doesn't want to be there. That was evident against the game against Seattle. But I think even in a game like that you felt, listen, they got to walk away with a point. Again, those mental lapses and moments, the one set-piece goal, and yes, Boxall slips, well, Marshall goes through. But even on the PK, it starts from a set-piece, and their inability to clear a ball and give second opportunities to Seattle. And then, you know, I mean, you walking away from a point and then losing, it's got to be deflating for them. So I agree with Paul. If you get on top of them early here, you know, and then don't let them think that there's an opportunity that they have a chance at this game, the better it will be. And it's a good opportunity for Nikolic maybe to get back on track here.
Yeah. And I think that left side is going to be the place to really attack in this game, especially if Matt Polster's back, because Brent Kallman, a center back who's been playing a lot for Minnesota, according to newspaper reports up in Minnesota, was riding the exercise bike at training today. He's got multiple injuries. I don't know if it was just a rest thing early in the week, but if he can't go, you have to move Calvo back into center back, and then you're playing Ish Jome at left back. He's a natural midfielder winger. He's not a left back, so that's an area you can take advantage. But they're going to have to wait and see how this team lines up. I just think there are some issues there.
But also centrally, I think with the two in the middle, if the Fire, depending how they decide to play, I think they can be an area where they can dominate the central part of the field and then attack them out wide, like you're saying.
Well, and Frank, you were a striker. You were a guy that scored goals. What's on Nikolic's mind right now, not scoring in as many games as he has?
I think he's frustrated for sure. You know, it's not 1 or 2 games. You know, I mean, that's 7 games you haven't scored. And, I mean, he hasn't gotten service. He hasn't been dangerous, and I think he's trying. You can just see the guy defensively moving and trying different things, and sometimes you're trying a little bit too hard. You know, we always cliches. You talk about you got to have a short memory as a forward, or it's always about the next play. But you know what? You're not in his shoes. So I think for me, keep it simple. Keep making good runs like you can. Don't come deep to the ball. He was dangerous when he was looking to get behind constantly, and then he breaks away at one point, you know, because he keeps the back line guessing. I think for me, this is a good opportunity for him to get back on track and for the team to do so also.
When we come back, we'll talk more about Minnesota United FC coming to town. You can get your tickets, 7:30 start at Toyota Park. It is Star Wars night coming up this Saturday. You can get your ticket, and also you pick up a ticket and a special edition Star Wars Fire scarf. The package is $40. Visit chicago-fire.com/Star Wars night. 7:30 start. Get on out there. The Chicago Fire has been selling them out the last couple of weeks. Full houses. Let's see if we can get another one this week against Minnesota. We come back. We'll talk more about that contest. This is Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Honey, it's time.
To go back to Lowe's? Yeah, this Valspar paint and primer in one really freed up the afternoon. Hey, how do you feel about tackling the kitchen?
Ooh, not great.
Okay, well, maybe we could finish up the basement then. I always wanted to get a pool table down there. I'm a bit of a shark.
And your wife is very much a pregnant chameleon.
Oh, what about a bar?
John.
Go, that time.
Yeah.
Clean paint starts here. Save time with Valspar's paint and primer in one interior paints exclusively at Lowe's.
Find a location near you at chicago-fire.com/youth.
NovaCare is the right choice for all athletes. As the exclusive provider of physical therapy to the Chicago Fire, we know the importance of keeping you active. Our sports medicine program, along with our movement assessments, aids us in finding your weak link and designing a program for you. We offer a full array of home care products so you can continue your care when you're not here. To request an appointment at any of our convenient Chicago locations, visit NovaCare.com today. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. The Chicago Fire getting ready to take on Minnesota United FC coming up this Saturday, 7:30 at Toyota Park. Get on out there to catch the game. If you can't, 7 o'clock on CSN Plus. It'll be Dan Kelly along with Frank Lopez and Paul Tenorio. And guys, we talk about road wins for the Chicago Fire and how tough it is. Real tough for an expansion team. They are winless as they come here to Chicago.
Paul talked about it. I mean, I think the thing with this expansion teams, it's always better to play them early on because as the season wears on, you know they're going to get better and better. I think they made some good additions. And I agree with Paul. I think Adrian Heath, for me, is a very good coach. He always gets his teams up to play. They try to play good soccer. I think it's been a little difficult for him because maybe he hasn't gotten the players that he wanted early on, but I do agree with him. I think there's a couple games in the season they'll surprise you, and they came close to doing that on the road against Seattle.
Listen, I say all the time in a 3-year building plan in MLS to get to a point where you can be a consistent winner. It's even more difficult as an expansion team in some respects. On one hand, you don't have any of the baggage. On the other hand, you have to put 30 guys together and turn them into a team in 1 month. And, you know, talking to Adrian Heath back in Orlando, it wasn't just about chemistry on the field. You know, Frank, you can speak to this. As a coach, it takes time to learn what guys like, what they don't. You know, can you yell at them? Do you have to put your arm around them? You know, are they a guy that you want to pump up during the week or a guy you try to manage his emotions? And Adrian is a guy who's a player's coach. He likes to know all of those tendencies. And it took a long time, I think, to get to know this team. Then you add in the fact that they probably only hit on about 30% of the guys they brought into this team. They had to do a massive makeover halfway through the season, and they're still not all the way there yet. So like you said, Frank, I mean, early in the season, this was a very susceptible team. They weren't very good. They had some players who are just not MLS level. They've corrected some of those mistakes.
I agree.
But now you're seeing a team that's capable of getting a result.
Yeah.
And they will get a result on the road before the end of the season, I think, that will surprise somebody because Ethan Finley comes into the picture. Sam Cronin's a bit more of a leader. You start to get that back four together a bit more. You know, when Christian Ramirez comes back and you have a goal scorer again. They're getting closer. They're not there yet. They're probably still another year and a half away from being there, but they're getting closer.
Well, and I do agree with you. I think with these new teams, it's like, how can you manage expectations? And that, you know, for me, it's always setting some challenging but also realistic goals. And I think in the end of the day, if you look at this Minnesota team and the way Atlanta went about putting a team together and the amount of money that one team spent versus the other, it's like night and day comparisons. But, you know, if they do give this guy an opportunity and time, Adrian Heath, which I hope they do, I think he's going to get it right. And I think you're right. I think, like, it's a dangerous team. You can't underestimate any team in this league. Because the changes they made, Paul, there's some good changes.
And I will say, though, when you look at the on-field product specifically of this Minnesota team, when you're an expansion team that's not going to be as talented as other teams around you, you have to win certain areas to win games. Big one is set pieces. That's a way for a bad team to get a result, to score on a set piece and to be good defensively. Right. It's been the opposite in Minnesota. 18 set piece goals directly from a direct kick of some kind. That's not good. It's very, very bad, actually. And I think it's been a big part of why this team has struggled. You cannot give goals away there if you're not a good team.
I agree with you. 18, I would say 19, because the second goal in Seattle, I think, came from a set piece. 51 goals against. But the thing for me is that the game is your point of reference, the last game. And I think your ability to learn from mistakes, because mistakes make you better. You learn. It just seems to me with this team from beginning up to this point, I mean, they still haven't learned because they still take certain plays off. We talked about it. And then I think they get themselves in trouble. And that's the thing. I mean, how many goals you got to give away until you say, you know what, that's it. We got to fix something. And that's an area of concern.
Well, you've got their lineup in front of you, and if you run through that, you talk about guys who you're watching these games and you're saying it's not enough. It's not enough effort defensively. Ibsen, very good on the ball, a bit lazy defensively. Kevin Molino, very good on the ball, doesn't do nearly enough defensive work. Calvo, turns on, turns off during the course of the season. This winger, Sam Nicholson, works very hard, but really doesn't impact the game. As a winger, you've got to change the game when you're on the ball. So there are all these little areas where, a coach can only do so much. And then some responsibility, in my mind, falls on the player to understand the level. And, maybe it's about adding some pressure. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Adrian Heath at some point in the season, if Kevin Molino keeps playing the way he is, or Calvo keeps playing the way he is, to yank him off the field and say, you're not guaranteed a starting job here. I'll put somebody else in that's willing to do the work.
Listen, that's all good. It's just as long as you have some good depth behind you to do that.
That's the problem,
But
right?
that's the thing. I mean, with this guys, I'm okay. And the guys behind you, Paul, they're okay as long as you put numbers up. When you don't do that and then you let the team down, especially when you're a guy that's been brought there to really take a leadership, be a difference maker, hold the ball, and in the difficult moments make a difference, and you can't take plays off. You got to be a difference maker every game.
Well, when you look at the guys behind them on midfield, not a lot of options.
Well, that was our look at Minnesota United FC, the Valspar Primer, the official paint of your Chicago Fire. We come back, we'll go around the league, take a look at what's going on around Major League Soccer. A lot of it with rivalry weekend coming up. This is Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
This golden opportunity features leather, wood, and glass. Raw elements made premium by Lexus. Experience unparalleled luxury at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event before it ends.
Lease the 2017 ES350 for $299 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Hi, Russ for U.S. Waterproofing. Looking for a company to repair your home can be stressful. Look to us, as many of your neighbors have, like Mrs. O'Brien in Elmhurst. We sealed cracks in her crawl space. Or Mr. Weber in Orland Park. We installed a battery backup sump pump. And Mr. Kaplan in Northbrook. He needed structural repair after he noticed cracks in his brickwork. We've helped many of your neighbors. Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com. U.S. Waterproofing. A better basement starts with us.
Go inside the lives of Chicago's biggest sports stars, only on Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Your questions answered.
They got this big because basketball got this big.
Idols revisited.
They bring the atmosphere and the energy that you need throughout the grind of the season.
And the stories behind the headlines revealed.
I realized so many reasons why I'm back home.
Catch a new interview every month with Inside Look on CSN. Visit csnchicago.com for listings.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez. And coming up this Saturday, it is Star Wars night at Toyota Park. The guys have the scarves that you can get. You go to chicago-fire.com/Star Wars night. Pick up your ticket and a scarf, $40 for the pair. Check it out today. There you see all the information, ticket and the scarf package, limited availability, chicago-fire.com/Star Wars Night. I know you've been looking at this scarf ever since you got it.
Let me tell you something. I texted a photo of this scarf, both sides, to my buddy Brian Strauss at Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
He has a huge scarf collection from his time covering soccer. I think more than 100 scarves from different games around the world. He only collects them if he goes to the game, and he is very upset that he's not going to be at this game. He told me, seriously, he was like upset. He was like, you need to take one of these scarves. They're going to be a great collector's items. I told him I'd send him one, but it would break his rules. So Brian Strauss, scarf extraordinaire, wants you guys to know it's worth getting one of these scarves. He told me it'll pay for one of my kids' college tuition down the line. So I'm going to take it for
You better collect it. I'm keeping this one. I'm not giving this one.
I just like the ships, man. I don't know the name of the ships, but I'm not a good enough Star Wars.
I gotta give this to my brother-in-law. He's a crazy nut Star Wars nut.
X-Wing? All right, there we go. I got a little bit of help.
Yeah, well, you need a lot of help with that.
I need a lot of help, for sure.
But, Major League Soccer came out with the announcement earlier today, as a matter of fact, the date for MLS Cup. So keep the date available. December 9th, it will be the date for MLS Cup live on ESPN and hopefully live very close to a stadium near you.
Right here at Toyota Park. Easy drive, no problem. It'd be fantastic.
It'd be great for me, man. I would tell you what, I'm taking a vacation starting Monday after Cup, so if I don't have to fly out, that'd be beautiful.
Well, it's even better for you that the game's on ESPN because you won't be on the sideline.
That's right. December 9th, I don't want to be on the sideline
The good thing we're prepared because we'll have our scarf with us.
Yes,
I'm keeping this one from...
There's no doubt about it. Hey, this week, a big week, not only this weekend, rivalry week, but also tonight. There's 7 games in Major League Soccer tonight. Some big games coming up this weekend, but also big games this evening.
Listen, if you're a Fire fan, there are some games you really should be paying attention to, especially in the Eastern Conference. And right after this show ends, there's 2 absolutely huge games when it comes to the standings in the East. DC United, Atlanta, at DC. That's a big, big game. Atlanta United, they have 12 games left this season, more than anyone else in Major League Soccer, 8 of those at home. But these next 2 games on the road, if they can get 4 points,
they're huge. I agree. In DC, and then they go to Philly next week. But this is 2 big, important games before that long home stretch.
It would set them off before that home stretch. And then, of course, Columbus, LA. Columbus has just 8 games left this season. They need to win all 4 home games that they have coming up. I believe 4 of their next 5 are at home. They need every single point, and that starts against an LA Galaxy team that everyone's used to saying LA is LA. They're good. They're 1 point ahead of Minnesota United. This is a bad LA Galaxy team. Columbus needs to take advantage at home tonight.
I agree with you, Paul. I think it's huge, this home games for Columbus. I think they're running out of games. This home games at home become must-win games for them. And then, the Montreal game. Also Montreal, I think, with their form right now, and then the games that they have at home, and then, they put some games in a row that they've won. I think they're putting that pressure on, and I think that's why this also becomes a big game for them, but also for Columbus. It becomes almost a must-win, especially at home.
Quick observation, Toronto, Philadelphia. Toronto with a full-strength lineup. They want that supporter shield. They want the record for most points in the season in Major League Soccer. They're going after it. And then Dallas, Houston in the West also tonight. Another good game to watch.
Yeah, a big game on Sunday as Montreal entertains TFC, and also Seattle and Portland. It's rivalry week. Chicago Fire, they got Minnesota United FC. Get your scarf. Go to chicago-fire.com/Star Wars Night. Find out all the information. Also, check out Rock Against Racism, the concert in the Section 8 tailgate. They'll be doing that before the contest. So get to the game early, tailgate with the guys from Section 8, and check out Rock Against Racism, the concert they're going to have there. Paul Tenorio, Fred Hubner, Frank Lopez. Don't forget, get on out there. 7:30 start this Saturday at Toyota Park. Thanks to Matt Lamson for jumping on in. And thank you for watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.